Hey guys, welcome back to Resin Bell. Today I'm going to be working on this necklace holder, and I have made this out of a design that I created in Inkscape. That is the frame and the background, and that is a cut file, an SVG file. You can use that with wood in a laser cutter, or you can use it for heavier cardboards in something like a Cricut Maker, that sort of thing. But the design for the paper is from Roycycled Designs. And she makes some beautiful designs for decoupage paper, and you can find that on roycycled.com, and you can find the link in the description box below. And guys, you can find that SVG through my memberships over on buymeacoffee.com, and I will put that link in the description box as well. And you can either sign up for a membership, and members get access to all of the SVGs that I create, or you can just buy me a coffee. One-time small donation to support this channel if you'd like, but check that out in the description box below as well. But for right now, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we're going to get started on this project. So we've got the design loaded up in our Glowforge software, and it takes about 12 minutes. This is showing you 8 times speed, so it takes a little bit to cut out all of these parts. Once you have all your parts cut out, you can pull them out of the Glowforge and clean out all the extra pieces. And the last step you need to do is make sure you pull the masking off of both sides of each cut. Now we're ready to do our decoupage, and I'm using papers from Roycycled.com. These are some nice heavy-duty decoupage tissue paper sheets. She has lots of different colors and patterns, very, very beautiful designs. So here I'm brushing on some matte Mod Podge and making sure I have a nice even coat from edge to edge. Just trimming off the excess pieces, and I'm going to save those for another project because those are great little pieces to use in junk journals and other projects. So to get rid of the rest of the extra around the edge, I'm just using a nail file. This is kind of a heavy-duty nail file, and I'm going at it at about a 45-degree angle, just from top to bottom. I don't go back and forth because that can tear your paper. And the final coat of matte Mod Podge just to seal the top of the paper, a nice thin even coat. So here I'm just going to use a scrap piece of foam to create a little sponge. I'll always use what I have on hand before I'll go out and buy a special tool. This actually came as a piece of packaging around a book, and so I just cut it up and I'm reusing it. So here I'm just dabbing on some paint so that I don't get any on the darker sides. Okay, so I've got this layer painted and it's all dry now, and I'm wanting to use some distress ink kind of around the edges to kind of give it that older looking effect. But distress ink doesn't react very well with acrylic paint, so I'm going to seal this with a layer of matte Mod Podge just to give it that nice barrier that the ink will work well with. Alright, now we have a nice little darkening on the inside and the outside edge, and I'm pretty happy with that. I don't want anything super crazy. Alright, I got this upside down like this. So I'm really liking that. You can see, perhaps you can see, kind of add some dimension to this piece. On camera it's looking a little brighter than it is actually in person, but you've got a little bit of dimension because you've added this darker to the inside, which kind of ties it into the paper in the background, which really makes it look really cool. Alright, so the next thing I want to do before I glue these together is I want to add some gold ribbon buff to bring in some gold highlights to this, and also a little bit to some of these designs in here in this piece. Alright, so I'm going to be using some of this ribbon buff, and usually before I open my tin, because these last a long time, you know, you use very little at a time, but if it's been setting for a while, it can kind of try to separate a little bit. So before I open the cap, I usually do this just to give it a little bit of a mix inside the tube, and then usually you don't have a bunch of oil or whatever squirting out. So alright, drop my lid. So you still get some oil squirting out, but if you do, just mix it around a little bit. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this on my finger. And see, I'm just adding a little bit to that edge off my finger, and then rubbing it in with my other finger, and we get a nice little detail, gold detail there. And I kind of like the unevenness of it when you do it that way, when you're basically just have a little bit on your finger, but you're kind of scraping it on to the edge, and then you use your other finger to rub it in. Then you get that kind of uneven, like, you know, aged, realistic look. So it's not, you know, perfect. You don't want perfect when you're working with aging things. Alright, so I've got some nice little lines on around the edge of that. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. Alright, now that those are done, I'm going to add just a little bit to this, just to kind of punch up some of these designs a little bit. And it'll make it kind of go along with the rest as well. I don't want to get the edges too much because they have that kind of worn, you know, rusty look. I'm just going to give it just a little bit here and there. This has such beautiful details, and this is just going to make them pop. I actually got this at Hobby Lobby, I think beginning of last year or something. I don't know, it's been a little while, but I love them so much and I couldn't pass them up, and they've just been waiting for the perfect thing. And then, you know, I think it goes really well with this Roycycled Designs tissue paper, so I'm really excited for this one. Alright, pretty happy with that. I think that's just going to look so pretty right there. Alright, so the next thing, after these have dried, I'm going to set that one to the side because it hasn't quite dried yet. But once the ribbon buff has dried, you just go over it with some paper towel or soft cloth, and you buff it. That's why it's called ribbon buff, because you can see that looks pretty decent, but then that really shines. So, you know, the whole point is to buff it up so that it really shines and it makes that gold glow. So don't forget that step when you're using your ribbon buff. Alright, I've got all these buffed up. You can see how shiny that gold is, and it is kind of uneven and fabulous. Now it's time to glue this on. Really love this two-piece set. It's time to glue this on. Gonna use some Titebond 2. I'll make sure that it stays on really well. I could use other things, but I'm going to go ahead and use the wood glue just to make sure it's never coming off of there. Okay, so to attach this, I'm going to be using some E6000 jewelry adhesive, and that will work just fine. The screws are way too long to go through this one thin piece of wood, so I'm just going to put those to the side, and I'm going to end up putting E6000 around there. Okay, so because this is concave, I am going to be putting, I have a scrap piece of acrylic from another project, and I'm just going to be putting that in there to kind of fill up that space so that I can have a nice flat surface to glue to the base here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you being here and crafting along with me. And if you would please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That helps promote my channel and get it seen by other people. And I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys make my day every single day. And I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoy.